arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So today my main topic was to basically talk about reality, because what we see outside here as reality is actually very subjective from person to person. Because even though the physical aspect of it, because we are all human beings over here, it might be similar. For example, this is black, this is brown, and the wall is white. All those inputs seem on the physical level, they seem somewhat similar. How we interpret these particular inputs and the reality we make in each and every individual, each and every mind within us is actually very subjective and different. Even if you take like me, now the person who is giving the deshana, no two people over here has the same idea of me. The feeling you get when you think about me is actually very different from person to person to person. In the same way, but can you tell that your feeling is actually the right one? So that's a very interesting concept to think about, no? Even if you take the Buddha, we know the Buddha, this great individual, fulfilled so many paramitas and came here, and people worship him. People feel so much happiness, samadhi, when they see him. And he was this people travel far and wide to see him. Yeah. So majority, I think a lot of individuals were that way. Then we had the other extreme. When they saw him, they were angry. They hated him. They hated that he was spreading this Saddharma and all that, and they didn't believe him. So we had even the Buddha as an input. Even though it came, so many different people had different interpretations of this particular image, of this particular input which was coming through. While some people got really calm, they got into dhyanas even maybe just by seeing him. Other people probably got really jealous. They got really distressed. So the same input, how is it possible to create so many different realities within all these different beings? So is reality, the reality you see, is it really reality, or is it really a very, very subjective experience? Because we are another interesting fact is, even according to me, physical science, modern science, they've found out that with this wavelength of light, what we are actually seeing here is just 1%. 99% of reality our senses cannot pick up. So there's so much more around which is happening here, but we are, through our senses, it's filtered. This 1% is coming through, and we are perceiving this reality. And we create this room, we create this everything you see over here is just a very filtered version of what actually exists. So why really is it filtered so we see this and not everything else? Even if you take an ant in this room, his idea, the ant's idea, its idea of this room is very different to your idea of a room. Yeah, for it must be a very hostile environment. Even though here you all are here for a Dhamma discussion, it must be peaceful. Your minds must be at a certain level of samadhi, at a certain level of peace. But for the ant, so many big beings around, it's a very hostile environment. Death is right in its corner. So, but the input, the process which is coming within from the external is the same, but the internal, the interpretation is completely else. The ant's reality is very different of what a room is. Another thing I've thought about is, when I go out and look outside the garden, so a dog who would be looking outside, and so my dog, when it looks outside, it's always in search of the cat. The garden is a very hostile environment for the dog, so it's always on the lookout. Where's the squirrel, where's the cat? So when it looks out, it's always on alert, always on guard. While when I look outside the garden, I'm like, wow, so nice, so calming, so relaxing. But the dog is having a completely different reality over there. It's on edge. Its tail is up, its eyes are scanning the environment. While me, when I look at it, I calm down, it's relaxing. So the relaxation part and the stress and anger the dog felt, these were not really due to the environment outside. Rather, this was the reality which was created within this animal's mind, within my mind. So when we talk about the Dhamma, when we talk about this path, we never really focus on an objective reality because that's impossible to really understand. What we talk about is a very subjective reality. What we talk about is this reality that we create within ourselves. And from person to person, that's going to be different. So, like I said before, if the 8 billion people out there, 7 to 8 billion people out there who meet me will have 7 to 8 billion different views of who I am, and me, I have my own view of who I am. So, which one is right and which one is wrong? Can you even make that statement saying no, that is wrong and this is right? So when we talk about this path, when we talk about vidarshanava, when we talk about understanding and deciphering this reality, what we are actually doing is deciphering our subjective reality. I think that's important here to understand. We have to understand that if we are the common denominator, we are the factor which does not change. Yeah, so while you go on this path, I'm going to relate this a lot to the path because otherwise it's kind of pointless talking about it. While you go on this path, you must understand that everything you are experiencing now is a subjective experience. So you have to kind of look at where you stand with all these things. So one lesson which I think is essential when going on this path is there is nothing really wrong with the world. There's everything wrong with your perception of it, because the initial reaction when we see wars happening, when we see all these corrupt politicians out there, when we see all this suffering out in the world, we blame people, we blame, it's them, look what they're doing. And up to a certain extent that is true, but also we had to understand that the world itself is just causes and effects taking place. We have a very little part to play in all this. Yeah, within our subjective reality, one person who holds the world as very valuable, one person who holds the world as something which should be good, as something which should be wholesome. Okay, because that's a nice thing to think. No, everyone should be very nice to each other, everyone should be very wholesome to each other. But think of just having this particular view, this opinion, how much suffering you are going to create within yourself, because the reality you see outside is very different. People are fighting with each other, people are stealing from each other, people are double crossing each other, so much corruption you see. And for this person who believes, no, my reality should be something which is good, there's going to be an extreme amount of suffering. So even holding on to a certain value that this world should be this particular way, remember that is a subjective reality you are creating, and that is not really reality. Every time you look outside and you feel angry that the world is this way, that there is this wars happening, that there are these women being raped, these children being killed, every moment you are angry, you are denying the world for what it is. Because these things happen. Whether you are there to experience it or not, these things will happen. So the nature of the world is such. So looking at that with a lens which is not judging it is something extremely difficult to do, because every moment you see it, you're like, it shouldn't have been that way. No? Why is it that way? Why are they like this? They should be better. No? People should be kinder to each other. No? But even that is running away from reality, isn't it? Even that is having an opinion of how this reality should be. And every time reality disappoints you, you're like, no. So a deep dive should be done into who really set the rules over here. Who really set the rules over here that this world should be in this particular way? Did reality, when you were born to this earth, did it ever tell you, what? Everything is going to be just and fair. If you work hard, you will get everything. You will get everything which is fair to you, and everyone will be good and kind to each other. Who made these ideals? These are good things. I'm not in any way saying these are bad things. Like, of course, how nice it would be, if people got along. But is that what reality is? And every time you expect this from reality, Does reality change, or do you just get angry? So every time you see something wrong with the world and you feel sort of sad, sort of angry to it, I feel like that is a really good moment to look into yourself. Because say a person who has, I guess, finished this path or has come to a long way along this path, when they see the world, what they see is, okay, so this is causes and conditions happening, there's nothing really I can do about this. Another person sees it and they're like really distressed. So go into that a lot, because throughout the day you have so many plans and expectations of how your day should go, how your reality should be, and realize that it is you who made this. But this is a very unconscious process. So people are born, they live their lives and die without even sparing a single thought to question the reality they are born into. they they're born, they live their entire life towards, the programming they're put to since they're small, and they live their lives and they die. Not a single thought will be spared. They believe this subjective reality to be absolute. So someone what did the Buddha say about reality? What did the Buddha say about the nature of the world? So, something which I found fascinating is the Four Noble Truths. So, he said there are truths, there are fundamental truths to reality, to existence, to the mind, to everything. There are four truths which are always there. And that's what he called the Chaturarya Satya, the Four Noble Truths. And and just to go into what they are, so he said dukkha, loosely translated as suffering. So, again, I'll make a small distinction between dukkha, because we all know suffering, no? When you think of the term suffering, no one is really new to it. Yeah, I mean, say someone dies, you suffer. Say something bad happens, you suffer. I mean, we all know suffering. We don't need another being to come and tell you, there is suffering in this world. Yeah, it's kind of obvious, no? There is suffering in this world. So why did the Buddha come and tell in separately about dukkha, about suffering? So here he made a distinction between suffering and the noble truth of suffering. So dukkha and dukkha arya satya. So is dukkha and dukkha arya satya, is it the same? Now, when talking about reality, dukkha arya satya is something which is present in each and every moment, each and every reality, it is actually present. So that is dukkha arya satya. But for example, say you are having a good time. Say for example, you are in this deshana right now and you're listening to it, and you feel a certain sense of calm. Does dukkha arya satya exist within this moment? That's something to think about, no? Because if these exist within reality, if this exists within the world, within every moment, then it should even exist within this moment. So dukkha arya satya, I think I'll get into a little bit more about that. So when you say dukkha, when you take again, I think in the first deshana I did with regards to anicca dukkha anatta and seeing that way, when you take the reality of this world, if you take good moments where you have sort of happiness, it's difficult to see the dukkha within that moment, right? For example, say you are listening to this deshana, okay, and I don't know if that's a bit too much of a deep example. Say you're listening to this deshana, you're listening to one person, and it's really resonating with you. Okay, it really makes so much sense to you, and you're really happy. Okay, but say then the next day there is a deshana you listen to, and it didn't resonate like that. It didn't really make a lot of sense. And then 3, 4, 5 days pass, and you are still searching, but that level of happiness doesn't come within you anymore. You can find that a lot in certain meditation practices also. Me personally, when I was small, I used to try these meditations. I would sit in one place for an hour, and really good. I would go to some sort of samadhi, some sort of dhyana, and it's really calm and nice and beautiful. And then the next time I meditate, I sit down again, and it's not there. So for like 2, 3 months, it's not there. Then in the third month, again, one session I had. So every day I sit on it, there is an expectation. Why? Because I really valued a particular reality. That reality of me getting into that sukha, that getting into that happiness when I sat down. So I thought every time I sat down, this is what is meant to happen. I again created a reality which should happen. Just when I sat down, I've already created that reality, I've attached to that reality, and I'm in pursuit of that reality. Isn't this a deeper sense of dukkha, a deeper sense of suffering? But why did it exist? Why did it come to be? Because I took my good meditation experience as valuable, as important, as something which should happen to me. So this might be subtle, but try to catch it. Everything which you take as nichai, that is to your liking, as happiness, as valuable, you will attach to it. When you attach to it, you will be in constant pursuit of it. On an unconscious level, almost every moment of the day is within this process. They are in pursuit of something. They are creating their own reality. They've attached to it, and they are trying to go behind it. I mean, think about when you plan. You plan your day. You think, okay, it should from I should wake up in the morning at this time. I should go to work at this time, and I should come home by this time. Say that doesn't happen. Then again, you're getting late to work, and you're like, no, I'm not meeting my schedule. Why? I created that reality within my head. There was no guidebook, no rule book which told me I should go to work at this time. No, of course, work expects you to come to at that time, but that's a different story. But notice how it is in your hands whether you are going to attach yourself to that or not. So what happens is, unconsciously you build that model and you attach yourself to it, and now you can't reach it and you are in a lot of stress. Every moment of the day we are doing it. That's not to say you shouldn't. So what's the solution here? Not to plan at all? No, because that's another extreme. No, so then if the problem is within the planning, then you can't really live. No, then you have to just stay at one place and the whole day just do nothing. The problem is not in the planning. The problem is not even in making different realities. The problem is in attachment to those realities. The problem is taking that particular reality you make as valuable. The problem is saying that reality should definitely happen. Because who are you to say that? Every time you say that, you are saying that through avidya. You are saying that through your ignorance, through not understanding what the world is, not understanding what the mind is. Because if you are going to do a project, you are going to have to brainstorm. You are going to have to think. You are going to have to come up with different things. But if you are the kind of person, when it does not happen, you get really distressed by it, see why that is happening. Who told you that it's supposed to happen that way? You told yourself. Because that's what's best for you. But that's not what the world is. That's not what this reality is. So every time you took that particular thing as valuable, you took a subjective experience. Who created? You created as valuable. You made the plan, you attached to the plan, and because of that, now you are suffering. Was it anyone else in the outside who affected you? Take another example. Say you are at home and you have your parents or siblings or children, and they are not behaving the way you want. They are being really bossy, they are being really controlling, they are being really unreasonable. Now, who said they are supposed to be reasonable? Who said they're supposed to be reasonable? Did when you were born, did it ever come with a contract saying, we guarantee you that they are going to be really reasonable, we guarantee you that there's absolutely going to be no problem, they are going to love and accept you totally unconditionally for who you are? It was never said. And if you believe that is how it's supposed to be, then good luck, because you are going to really suffer. I know, because I've been there. Every time you see your loved one, you're going to say something and you're going to expect that from them. Expect them to get you or understand you or do this thing for you. But no, there is no guarantee. There is absolutely nothing saying that they are going to do it for you. That is the reality of this world. I mean, you can really believe saying, no, but they will, but they won't. And every time they won't, you will experience that dukkha. Because you built that model saying they should be that particular way. So what the normal person does, who is not on the path, is they blame. They blame. How could my mother do that? How could my partner do that? Like, how dare you do that? That's not how it's supposed to be. But who said they are supposed to be that way? You said it. That partner is that own individual, is that own person. Who says this partner should be this way? Who says this mother should be this way? You built that model. You built that model. You built your mother in your head, and every time the mother in your head does not match the one in reality, you suffer. You feel a deep sense of dukkha, because the reality your mind makes is not aligning with real reality. What we always try to do is make mind into matter. We try to make the models which are created in our mind into matter. So something interesting is, people who have money and power, they can do this up to a certain extent. But take people who have money and power. For example, they think, I should buy this house, I should buy this business, and I'll be happy. For a normal person, I mean, they can dream of it, but they can never do it, no? Because they do not have the financial capability to do it. While a person who is really rich, their mind builds a model, their mind builds like, okay, this will make me happy, this will make me good. They can go ahead and do it. But the thing is, even that person, for a while, when he gets it, definitely he'll be happy, but then it will go away. So no matter how much money you have, all you're going to be doing is you are going to basically make matter into what is created in your mind. Power is another similar thing, yeah. So for example, politicians, people in high places, they can tell these people to do this particular thing, so they can control their environment in a certain way. Control the environment in what way? In the models their own mind creates. So their mind creates a model, okay, this person should do this particular thing, and then that happens. That's actually kind of crazy, because in our day-to-day lives, say you think, okay, that person should do a particular thing, most probably that other person is not going to do that for you, because you are not in a position of power. But once you come to this position of power, you are able to move around things the way your mind sees fit, and that's extremely addictive. And that's also avidya, still thinking, by doing that you are going to be happy. So in all these aspects, just notice how this subjective reality is created within your mind. Then go into it and see, why did I create that subjective reality? And in many instances, I mean, even up to your life right now, you might have created certain realities, and you might have gotten to that place. Yeah, say the job you are in, say the family you are in, the partner you are with. You might have had a certain idea that I want these particular things, and you've gotten them also. Yeah, some things might have been possible, some things might have not been possible. But despite you getting those particular things, are you happy now? Is it done? Is it over? That is the trick of the mind. Yeah, it sells you like the donkey with the carrot. It sells you the carrot. It's like it's a really good salesman. It sells you and tells, okay, this reality is what is going to make you happy. You get that reality, then it sells you another one. And this is samsara. It doesn't end. Each and every one of us over here, a reality is being sold by our mind. Each and every one of us is living within a particular illusion. It's all objective reality you will not be able to experience. You will always just see a very subjective reality. Even though you see these particular inputs, I just told you, you are still seeing it filtered from the human senses. It's still 1% you are seeing in this reality. So it's almost like a matrix which is built for this society, for people to exist. And we are continuously going about it with no end. We believe it so much. So think about akusala, think about sins and the bad deeds people do because of the reality they believe. They believe, for example, if you take wars and everything, they believe that this race is supreme. So is that true? No. But those people believe that reality so much that they would kill, they would rape in order to get there. And this has happened throughout history. To take another being's life, that's how much they believe the reality. That's how much they believe the lie which is fed into them. It's so much. It's kind of crazy if you think about it, how much they believe it. I mean, even if you take y'all, would you go? Okay, for example, someone really ruined your day and really ruined your family. Would you really go to the extent of killing them? If you believe the reality, which your mind sells to you, do not underestimate the power of it. Do not underestimate what it can force you to do. Because all around you, you just have to look around. You can see so many people trapped within that illusion, going behind it every moment of the day. Anger, hatred is something people carry over lifetimes, even sometimes. Every living moment, some of them exist to get revenge. That's kind of crazy if you think about it, no? Waking up in the morning and be like, yeah, my sole objective is to kill this dude. Like, I mean, so he believes that this is what should be accomplished. Look at the different realities of these people. And then alongside that, we have individuals like the Buddha. We have individuals like Jesus Christ, like all these different individuals who were there. And it's really deceiving. Another thing I thought about is it's really deceiving because they all look like you and me, no? Like this outer shell, this outer physical appearance, which all just look kind of human. But inside, the reality they've created, the energy they've created, the karma they've accumulated, the way they are operating is so different. It's so different. But this outside shell is extremely deceiving. What can really happen is if you truly believe this outside shell, you can really get trapped within it. Yeah. So always something to do is question. Now, the other aspect I want to get into is Lord Buddha said the four noble truths. He said reality is dukkha, but it's not the dukkha you usually think. It said that dukkha arya satya, that's a noble truth of dukkha, is only properly understood by a rahatan vahanse, that is by an arahat. An arahat only sees dukkha arya satya to completion. Yeah. So even a person who is on the path will only truly see it completely for what it is when they do finish. Okay. So that is, they do not see the nature, the real nature of their subjective experience until they finish the path. Yeah. Little by little, they may see through it, they may break through it, but it's only done to completion once you finish the path. So that's very important to understand, because once you go on the path, you should be very open to knowing that the subjective experience that you are experiencing is not reality, is not really what it is. I will get into that a bit more, because if reality is truly dukkha, then do you have to convince yourself that it is dukkha? I'll ask that again. If reality is truly dukkha, do you have to convince yourself that it is dukkha? No, you just have to see it. So that is, I think that's a very important point, because initially I think it's good, to see, okay, there's something really wrong with the world. Oh, how much suffering it is. Look, but here also you can get into. This is not in the start of the path. I feel like people who go on the path for a bit really, it's good if you think about this, because I've seen people get into this frame where they kind of label it, where they kind of frame everything as suffering. They're like, "Mana dukkaddi thing," like doing all this planning, how much dukkha it is, pointless, and they get to this almost nihilistic, almost really negative kind of mindset, and they frame everything as dukkha, 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 dukkha. But is this the noble truth of dukkha? Is this the dukkha Lord Buddha was talking about? Or is it you creating a reality and saying that reality is dukkha? I don't know if that was too deep. You are again creating another reality and you are like, this reality is dukkha. You haven't seen the reality, you've labeled that reality. There's a stark difference there. Because anyone can say this reality is dukkha, no? To see through it as dukkha is something else. So how can you see through it? How can you see through this illusion which is happening even right now? How can you see through it? How can you see through your mind? How can you see through this subjective experience? Sorry? Yeah, that's actually a good point. First, let the moment come in. And the other quality I feel like is really important is honesty. Be truthful on it. Because here we are not trying to label it, frame it, judge it as something. We are trying to see it exactly for what it is. So if we are 100% truthful to that reality, to that moment, then we will see it truly for what it is. But this is easier said than done. You can't just decide to do it and then see it. Truthfulness, that honesty aspect, is something, is a quality which is to be developed as you go along this path. And that is a very humbling process. It's very humbling because everything you took to be reality, you are to let it go. So everything you took to be valuable, every time you think, okay, no, the world is this, yeah, because when you're on this path, you can have certain opinions of it, no, okay, this is what the path is, okay, this is what the practice is. But if you take even Buddhism, there are so many schools of thought. I mean, even within Sri Lanka, there are so many different schools of thought of Buddhism, of what the path is, of what the practice is. Yeah. So who is right and who is wrong? In a very simple sense, if you look at the reality which is presented to you, if you question it, if you observe it, if you investigate it with an honest heart, with an open mind, it'll be very difficult. Why? Because we are always in denial of reality. We are always trying to fit the reality which is made over here in our heads, in our minds, in the world. So humility, the ability to let go of what you thought the world to be and to constantly update yourself, is something which is absolutely necessary. If not, you can't progress on this path. If you take the path, like say you're going on the path and you take this path to be a particular thing, you're like, okay, this is the path. Again, you might get trapped over there. You must be able, when the time comes, you must be able to even let that model, that frame of the path you had, you must be able to let it go when it does not serve your purpose. But by here, what I mean is, you can think, because when I was like actively a few years ago, when I was trying different things out, I was like, okay, this is the path. And it was sitting in 1 hour meditation. So before, when I was a kid, what I was doing is, okay, sitting in 1 hour of meditation a day, and I'm going to really get into my mind and experience these deep states of being where I'm going to see my mind truly for what it is. So that was my idea. So that was my model, until I had to let that go. Because if I could not let that go, I couldn't go to the next step. Throughout the path, you will be sold. Your mind, your own mind, will sell you different models. When it doesn't serve you, when you look at it, when you see there's something wrong with it, when you truly look at it through your heart, through your prajnava, and you see that it's not what you thought it is, you must be able to let it go. You must be able to update. And that is something really scary. Because for years, you must have held on to it as the thing. And when it comes to the point you have to let go, can you really do it? So, honesty, truthfulness, and humility. Humility in the sense that you must be able to accept, one, okay, I had this model and this wasn't it. So I was wrong. For me, I think what I held on for more than 10 years, I had to let that go. And that was really difficult for me, because that was when I was 13. I remember I held a particular thing as the path really strongly. So when it came like 10 years later, like when I was 24, in order to let go of that thing which I held valuable for 11 years, which was the most important thing to me, was extremely difficult. But it had to be done in order to go to the next step. This is what usually happens, especially with spiritual practices and people. They get attached to this particular idea, and they've done it for so long. Now it's too much of the unknown to let it go. But I believe a true practitioner, someone who is really determined to finish this path, someone who is really determined to end suffering and get out of this, is truly brave enough to let go of the previous models which does not serve him, no matter how much it has served him before. I don't know if I got a little bit too much into that, but it is extremely important we understand that aspect. Yeah, because if you are not the person who is open-minded enough to let go, if you are not the person who is open-minded enough to let go of what was so valuable to you at one point in your life, then you can't go forward beyond that. But how do we let that particular thing go? just by seeing it for what it is. And how do you do that? This is what you call the practice of vidarshana. Every time. So dukkha, I believe one way to do it, dukkha is a beautiful indicator. Because, so Lord Buddha talked about dukkha arya satya, then the second noble truth is dukkha samudaya satya. So the reason for this dukkha, and the reason for this dukkha is avidyava. So what is basically avidyava, in a very simple way, is basically taking what is not valuable, that reality you created, which is not valuable, as valuable. Simply put, that is what avidya is. Very simply put, that's what avidya is. So what is the reason for that dukkha? It is you taking the reality, the mind you created within, as valuable. Okay? So every time you create it, looking at that particular reality, watching it, observe it, letting it come also, because you have to let that reality come in order to understand it. Another approach I've seen certain practices do is suppression. Whenever that comes, they're like, oh, no, it's coming. Oh, I'm planning now. Oh, I'm attaching now. No, let me not do it. No, attach yourself to it. Because once you see it, once you really see it for what it is, you won't attach to it. Because it's dukkha. Because that is the reality of it. That is the truth of it. If you have real shraddha, real faith in the word of the Buddha, that it is dukkha, then you must be able to let absolutely anything come through and watch it and observe it and learn from it and understand it. Because everything has to be dukkha, right? If not, the word of the Buddha is wrong. So why not take up that challenge and let anything you want to come through? Yeah, because I remember I used to be like, okay, I shouldn't watch too much movies. I shouldn't watch too much music. Shouldn't listen to too much music. I shouldn't spend this much time with my friends because I might get attached to it. But if it is really dukkha, should you really suppress it? What I mean to say is, let it come and observe it. Do not frame it and do not tell no. For example, like especially when you start off the path, there might be certain practices you have to stop. For example, if you are like indulging in alcohol every day, you are not going to have a mind which is open enough to even look at this stuff. If you are the kind of person who steals, sexual misconduct and all kind of, when you have this akusala sit, when you are in a negative frequency, it's almost impossible to look at your mind because you are within that negativity. So initially, a bit of suppression to put that down and to vibe on a positive level is important. Okay, so that exactly is what we chanted earlier. Sabba papa sakaranam kusalasya upasampada. You have to come to a bit of a plus, a bit of a positive. I hope you got that. Because if you are within a negative, it's going to be a bit difficult. So initially, if you are in a negative space, then certain rigid practices might be necessary depending on who you are, depending on where you are, to vibe on a more positive frequency. But once you start vibing on that positive frequency, then do not be afraid to let anything come and observe and understand anything. Because everything should fall into dukkha arya satya. If it does not, then there is a problem in the word of the Buddha. But that can't be, So then there must be a problem within you, Then look at that reality and try to understand it. Of course, there's a fine line between indulgence in that particular thing and suppression of it. I think this itself is the middle path, But the middle, I'm not going to get too much into it. I feel like I'm saying too much points all at once. Then dukkha samudaya, then dukkha nirodha. So this third noble truth is the other most beautiful thing. Because even though the Buddha said there is dukkha and reality itself is dukkha, he said there are 31 dimensions of existence. So this human plane, this physical plane is only one plane of existence. There are 30 more. And he said, even within those 30 more, there is not even one place where you can take as good, as valuable. So he talked about, certain religions talk about heaven, no? So he said there are different planes of heavens. There are different heavens. There are different planes of existence. And even within these beautiful planes, not one moment is free from dukkha arya satya. Within all those, it's the same rules which apply. So saying all this, okay, so he said that And then he said, but there's a reason for this, and that is avidya. So it's how beautiful, no? So like it's not yeah. Sorry. Trushna, yeah, avidya and trushna, yeah, that is tanha. Okay, and then the third one was like there is a nirodha of it. So that is what we call nibbana. There is a state, or there is something called nibbana which is free from this dukkha. And he said that is a truth too. So the third noble truth is that, and I think that is really the most inspiring thing. It's not. I mean, yes, if there is no place you can take refuge, and there's a reason why you can't take refuge in any of these places. But there is a particular thing which is free of all this, and that is nibbana, and that is also a truth. So in the word of the Buddha, that is a noble truth. And the fourth one is there is a path to get there. So if you take this four, I feel like this four is really fascinating. There is dukkha, there's a reason for this dukkha, there's a place where there is no dukkha, or there's nirodha, there's not a place, there's a dukkha nirodha state, and there's a path to this dukkha nirodha state. Yeah. So I feel like the four noble truths, which explains what reality, what existence is, in itself is extremely deep in one sense, and also inspiring. Because not only did he say there is a problem, he said there is a solution, and there is a path to that solution. So unlike most spiritual practices, most of the work here is within our hands to go on this and to understand, because no one else can do it for you, because what you are breaking is your own reality. You are breaking your own reality. So the Buddha can't do it for you. I mean, he can tell you the nature of your reality, but it is up to you to understand it and realize it for yourself. So that is what the path is. And like I said earlier, it starts from that very simple karmasthana, which I also used a lot. There is nothing wrong in the world, because it's all hetupala. It's all cause and effect, which is just happening. Every time you blame it, that is where your path lies. That is where your path is. Because every time you blame it, that is where you are misunderstanding reality. That is where you are being fooled by your mind. That is where you are being fooled by avidya. That is your path. So every time you are being fooled by your mind, there is dukkha. There is a reason for that dukkha. There is a nirodha of a dukkha. There is an elimination of that dukkha, and there is a path to the elimination of that dukkha. Within every moment, this holds true. So if you think nibbana is going to come to you when you go to that retreat, when you go to that forest and spend your time in isolation, no, that is not the case. Because there itself, in that forest in isolation, it's another reality, no? Then what's happening in this moment? Is this not reality? Is this not the mind which is working even now? Is it not avidya which is even working now? When you close your eyes, true, you become calm, you can vibe in a higher energy, and you can see more. But even if you open it, if you close it, if you stay in Sri Lanka, if you go to Switzerland and one of the retreats there, it's the same mind which will always follow you. So this reality can be experienced at any moment of the day. It absolutely does not matter the place you are in. So if you've already created a reality in your mind saying, okay, I'm going to start this path when I get here, I think it's high time to break that illusion, because that might never come. That is another carrot which has been sold to you, and you, like a donkey, will chase it along. So every moment, that's why we need wisdom, we need prajna. Every moment this mind is going to sell you a lie, you'll only be able to initially catch it rarely. Very rarely. Maybe once or twice throughout the day, you'll be like, okay, why did I think that? That's not really true, is it? And then the next day, maybe you see another one. But the truth is, it's always there. Underlying, there's a lie being sold to you all the time. There's a liar which lives within. It's always there. That's why it's called avidya. Avidyava. If Vidyava is truth, understanding science, the reality, then Avidyava is the opposite of that. It's delusion. It's living within that illusion, living within that lie. So until you attain Nibbana, you are going to be within a lie. A lie is going to be constantly sold to you every moment of the day. You are bound to this lie. It is this lie which keeps you in samsara, which keeps you in an infinite existence where you never end. Once you really see the lie as the lie and you see reality for what it is, you see the true nature of your subjective experience, you are free from this. But until you do that, you are going to be within this curse. So that is why the path is held as the most valuable thing out there. Yeah? Because from this illusion, the only way to get out of it is the path. So, in a nutshell, everyone here is experiencing a subjective reality. Within your subjective reality lies your liberation. So I hope each and every one of you can dive into that, can really go into that and understand your reality better. Little by little, it might not happen today, it might not happen tomorrow, but it might happen today. Who knows? Continue, because there is nothing really, to me at least, there's nothing really I see more worthy than this. Because if you're going to be living in deceit, in a lie for the rest of your lives, what's the point? So come into that truthfulness. Build honesty as a quality. Because if you're going to be the person who kind of lies to another person, even a white lie, who kind of just says a lie to shape things up, then you are definitely going to be lying to yourself. The lies we tell ourselves are the biggest ones. They are the biggest ones. So you need an insane amount of honesty in order to see reality for what it is. Otherwise, you're always going to be in denial. Otherwise, you're always going to push it through and be like, nah. And you will sell your own lies and live within it. So be very honest. Be extremely ready to update yourself. Because right now, you are suffering because of this lie. You are suffering because you do not understand things for what they are. So accept that. Live within that humility. Be ready to let go of what you already know to receive what is to come. That is what the path is. And I wish all of you the best of luck to go on this path. May the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha be with all of you all. Theruvan Saranai.